You got it. Well, welcome. Welcome, everyone. It's so good to see so many familiar faces from the 101. And again, my name is Courtney Frazier. I'm the Executive Director of the Colorado Dude and Guest Ranch Association. And we are going to do a little bit of a deeper dive today. So from the 101 that had a lot of information for you. And today I do have some new information. There are a few slides on here that I'm going to go a little bit quicker through. Believe it or not, sometimes people sneak onto my 201 that haven't done the 101. Doesn't happen very often, but I do have a couple of critical slides in here that I'm probably going to go a little bit quicker on just because you've seen them before. So we won't have to call out names here for who didn't make it for the 101 that signed up. So anyhow, but all of this is, again, it's meant to be new information. And really the goal today is to really help you become more familiar with our ranches, with our individual ranches. We have 21 of them, so unfortunately I'm not going to go into detail on every single ranch because that would pretty much be the entire presentation, but I'm going to give you some examples of things that make our ranches, each of our individual ranches, unique, and some good questions that you can start doing for your clients for fact finding, some tips and tricks for booking clients, and then also how to best promote ranches if you'd like to build the product. So those are some of the things that I'd like to accomplish today. And then at the end of the session, we will have a little bit more time during this session for Q&A, because I realize that the folks on the 201 really want to take that deeper dive and probably have additional, more specific questions than the general session of the 101. So I do leave a few extra minutes at the end for some questions. So as we're going through here, if you want to go ahead and just start typing your questions into the chat box, we will start with those questions at the end of the presentation. And then finally, for my housekeeping notes, I do have a very small, fun little giveaway for a little quiz that I'm going to quiz you on at the end here. So for whoever gets it right, I'm going to just randomly pull a name out of the correct answers, and I've got a fun small little prize for you at the end. So that's it for my housekeeping items, and off we go. So for the deeper dive into Colorado dude ranches, again, let me make sure my presentation is forwarding. There we go. Some of these slides initially are going to be a little familiar, so I'm going to go pretty quickly through them. And then we're going to kind of get into the meat of things here in just a few minutes. So these are some expectations that we talked about in the 101 and what makes things unique. And so really, I think the big takeaways from this slide are that, you know, we're a long way away from the pork and beans days. People are not sleeping in tents nightly. I mean, these are really nice cabin and lodge accommodations. There are overnight pack trips that are optional throughout the week. But again, we're quite a long ways away from the city slicker days, but we kept some of the best and kind of the most nostalgic and, just wonderful aspects of that type of trip, and have kind of grown up from that, for those of you who remember the movie City Slickers. Again, just to reiterate what a certified member ranch is, we think of us like the AAA for the dude ranching world. So, you know, if they're a member of our association or the National Association, they have been inspected and certified as a quality destination. We do not do a ranking system. Sometimes with, you'll see with AAA, they have a 1 diamond, 2 diamond, 4 or 5 diamond, etc. We set a really high benchmark for all of our ranches, and since they're all so different, it's hard to put a ranking system on them, because if you're comparing a working ranch, for instance, with a luxury ranch resort, you're going to get an exceptional and quality vacation out of both of those, but they're just completely different types of experiences. It's not like you're comparing like the Hilton and the Four Seasons hotels and really fine-tuning amenities and things like that. Because this is such an experiential vacation, we don't do a ranking system. So just know that once they're in, they're good. So if they're on the list, they're good to go, and you can feel really confident about sending your guests to one of these ranches. So this is going to start to get into a little bit of what I do. And this is kind of the fact finding. How do you help your clients find the right ranch? And there are some, some basic educational things that I like to first start with people on, to help them understand the different types of ranches, because a lot of times you'll notice that clients just don't really have a good idea of what they're looking at here. Is this something where we just go ride for a day and it's nose to tail, like with all those 1-hour trail rides that I'm sure everybody's been on at some point, and we get a chuck wagon meal and go home? Or is this something like a family camp? We get that question a lot. So a lot of times there's just not a good idea and a good definition in people's minds of what a dude ranch actually is. So I like to start there. So help them understand the difference of the types of ranches and the typical length of stay is a really good place to start. This is not a day experience. This is an immersive vacation. So when you talk to guests and potential guests, just make sure that they know that this is something that they probably haven't done before. This is not the nose to tail type of riding that they do at a lot of liveries or day riding facilities. This is an opportunity to learn how to ride for the first time and really become a better rider by the end of the week, if that's a goal, or for the more experienced rider to really be challenged and to go on some just breathtaking rides and technical rides that they really, most equestrians back at home probably don't have the opportunity to do. So there's a lot of variety in the horseback riding. And then obviously the 3 types of ranches, which hopefully you remember from the first session: the working dude ranch, the traditional, and the luxury ranches. So I like to give folks an understanding of what a ranch is in general, that 40,000 foot view, walk them through the 3 different types of ranches, and then, really emphasize the length of stay and the peak season. One of the trends that we've seen in the last few years is we have a lot of families wanting to travel on fall or spring break. And that's really challenging for us because we really don't have the programming set up for families outside of peak season. So, I really encourage our families to visit between June and August, or late May, I should say, in August, because they're going to get the most out of that trip. They're going to get that full kind of immersive experience. And also the length of stay. The 6 to 7 night week is pretty unique to us. We actually, a little history of the association and our ranches. Back in the day in 1934, when our association started, there was actually a month-long stay requirement at a dude ranch when you were a guest at a dude ranch. So when you hopped on the train from Chicago to come out to Colorado to stay at a guest ranch, you were going to be there for a full month, and the ranches did not offer less than a full month stay, and you became the cowboy. And really, by the time, if you can imagine, you still really get an immersive type of feel after a week, but imagine staying a month. And that used to be the industry standard back in the 30s and 40s. And then, they started to bump that back to 2 weeks. And, just because, transportation and all of those things, as were changing over that period of time to make our ranches more accessible. And then different types of travelers wanted to stay at our ranches. So they accommodated what was considered back then a pretty short stay of 1 week. And we've actually held on to that 1 week, which is a 6 or 7 night stay, since about the mid 60s. And the ranches that are around today really feel like that's a good amount of time to be able to not only experience everything at the ranch, but again, it's kind of that transformative experience, to be without a regular cell phone service for a full week. And to really slow down, it takes about 2 or 3 days to even get to that point. So it really adds to the reason why our return guest ratio is so high, around 65%. So it sounds like a lot, but once you dig down into it, it really makes a lot of sense. And we know that once people go once, there's an incredibly high chance that they're going to want to come back. For those who do want the shorter stays, again, we do have some ranches now that offer short stays during the peak season. They do still typically have dedicated arrival and departure days. So again, this is something that is unique to dude ranching. I like to think of it, as I mentioned in the last 101, is like booking a cruise ship. You wouldn't book a cruise with somebody arriving when they're out in the middle of the ocean. There are certain times that you have to leave port and certain times that you have to come back, and that's how, you know, just kind of think of the dude ranching world like that. There's just limited staff to be able to turn over the entire property in an effective manner on a daily basis. So that's why they have those dedicated arrival and departure dates. So that's step one, kind of just helping folks become more acquainted with the ranches, the type of ranches, and the length of stay, which, you know, again, is pretty unique. And so number two, fact finding. So asking the right questions. Travel budget. You know, one of the things that, unfortunately, from the initial price that you see online, it's kind of sticker shock to some people. And so I like to talk people through our budget and what all-inclusive means to us versus what all-inclusive may mean at a different resort or different type of vacation. You know, the meals, the lodging, the activities, the kids program, the evening entertainment, you know, sometimes even the alcohol at some of our ranches, those are all included in one rate. Some of our ranches, we're actually over about 50% too, actually include gratuity in their rate as well. Gratuity is always obviously optional, but we have some ranches that just built it into their rate because, you know, at the end of the trip, it's one extra thing to think about all of these little itemized things coming off of your budget, and that's one of the things that we try to avoid. So all-inclusive to us really does mean all-inclusive. Even to some extent, again, most of our ranches include taxes in their rates, and that's pretty abnormal. So sure, we could list lower prices and, you know, maybe it initially pull people in, but then once they leave the vacation, you kind of have a sour taste in your mouth because all of these extra things are added on. So that's something that's kind of unique. And the other thing too is that the rates are typically based on a per person rate instead of, you know, either a double occupancy rate or things along that nature, because what they do is for the adults, there's one rate. For the teens and kids, that's typically a lower rate depending on the age of the child. And so that's their all-inclusive rate for everything I just mentioned for the entire week. And that includes, you know, again, you wouldn't have to spend a penny more. And I could guarantee you that everything that's included in that rate, your clients would have an excellent time. We already talked a little bit about the best time for travel. Again, just hammer it home, right? Summer is the best for families. So, you know, it really is. And so I know that they're going to have the best experience. Fall, winter, and spring, we have a lot of couples traveling. September is typically adults only. So not only can, you know, do they not have their kids program, but they typically don't even take children during the month of September. So especially for those adult travelers who really want to get away without the kiddos around, it's a beautiful time. You're still going to have perfect weather. And I really encourage that time of year because I think that, again, for just adults traveling, they're going to get the most out of that trip if, you know, if they're trying to get away from the kids for a weekend, or if they don't have children and maybe don't want that atmosphere, that's always a good option for them. In terms of, you know, when you're doing your fact finding, I always like to encourage folks to find the ranch that fits your client the best first. It's hard to get hung up sometimes on transportation, right? And I get it. I've got an 8 and a 10-year-old. And so if you don't think that I'm not thinking about door-to-door travel time when I go on vacation, I absolutely do. But what I also realize, and knowing our ranches so well, is that, you know, an extra hour in the car for an experience that's going to be ideal for my family at the end of the day, especially since you're there for a week, is totally worth it. So I really like to make sure that the ranch fits the client first, and then help them, you know, to the best of our ability with the ground transportation and things like that. We do have regional airports that are always a good consideration, and they do take major carriers like Delta Express, United Express, so those are some good options to get you closer to those ranches that are further from the two major airports. And you know, there's also one of the things that I like to do is I like to encourage folks to experience some of our byways, make it a little bit more of again, there's so many things you can do to help make the entire experience, including the trip there, kind of fun for them. So we've got some really neat hotels if they fly into Denver and then they've got to drive the next day to get to the ranch. You know, there's some fun places near Denver. It's called the Platte Valley Fort. It's up in Greeley, just north of Denver, and it's a replica of Bent's old fort. And so it's just got some fun history, and I love to send people there because it's, you know, it's close, and if they're coming in the evening and going to start the drive the next day, we've got some really neat experiences that we can add on to their Dude Ranch trip that are nearby to make that part of the experience. Also, I like to send folks on our national byways. By the end of this year, all of our byways are going to be completely electrified as well. So if you have travelers who are taking their electric vehicles, you know, we've got more and more options in Colorado right now for that type of travel. And they're just some beautiful drives too. So I really think that there's a lot to do with, you know, getting from point A to point B, and finding the right ranch is always the most important, because it's really not worth, you know, saying, gosh, I just can't handle that extra 45 minutes of travel or hour of travel, and end up maybe at a ranch that's not the best fit for your client. So this is, you know, for the fact finding, this is how to help you. Some additional amenities and activities. It's important to know, you know, what their expectations are. And you, for a lot of your return clientele, you typically know kind of what they're looking for. You know, do they like massage services, spa services, you know, cattle activities, archery, trap shooting, fishing, whitewater rafting, biking, you know, what types of additional activities on top of just having a great Dude Ranch trip might be appealing to them. You know, amenities like swimming pools, zip lines, tennis courts, some of those resort features, those vary from ranch to ranch. So, you know, if somebody is really looking for some of those additional amenities, that can help narrow down, you know, kind of the the amount of options they have as well. So those are some other fact-finding questions that I like to ask folks when, you know, when kind of chatting with them. And also, some people in the family, maybe they want to ride, and maybe some people just don't have an interest in riding. And so we have some ranches with a lot of additional activities for non-riders. So for instance, if somebody's just not into horses, that's okay. We can still have the entire family have an excellent trip at the ranch, even with non-riders. And it's a little counterintuitive considering, you know, we're you know, horses are central to everything we do, but there's so many additional things to do, and just the downtime and kind of the serenity that comes with being at some of these ranches is a vacation in and of itself, but there are lots of other activities as well. So non-riders can have a great time. Specialty weeks. This is something I don't even know if you'd know to ask people unless you knew about them. So most of our ranches throughout the season have specialty weeks now, and these are just different kind of highlighted weeks where they have all of their programming, but something in addition. So for instance, painting and photography workshops. They may have a professional painter who comes up, and you can learn how to, you know, you'll be painting right alongside the painter and learning how to draw beautiful scenery or horses or, you know, barns, things like that. Same thing with photography, professional photographers. We have one ranch that has a National Geographic photographer come every year the same week and teaches folks who have an interest in photography how to take some really compelling ranch photography. And again, it's built into the trip. It's not something in addition. It's just part of that week that just adds something pretty unique to the experience that a lot of people are interested in. Women's Week. So there's some Cowgirl Roundup Week. So if you've got some folks who are, it's a bunch of girlfriends and they're looking for a retreat, maybe look at some of the women's weeks. The Cowgirl Retreats is what they call them. Native American History Weeks is another popular one. We have a couple of ranches doing this where, you know, they have a couple of experts and folks who really have been engaged in the Native American history here in Colorado, and they bring lots of educational tools and stories, and it's just, again, it's kind of fun. So you kind of sit around the campfire around a big teepee together at the end of the day and hear all of these stories from, you know, and legends, and it's really cool. So again, you know, the basic vacation in and of itself is, I mean, there's so much to it. And then for folks who are looking for something a little bit more, we have those as well. And those are listed on a specialty weeks page on our website. And then finally, this is a reiteration from last time too, so I'll go quick, but use the association. We are here to help. So we do not book directly from the association, but it is incredibly important to us that we help you help your clients find the right ranch. And the reason it's so important to us is because, again, we know that those guests who have a good experience the first time are really likely to return and come back. And that's really what we want to have happen, is we want to help you be the matchmaker to find a good ranch. We also have a lasso this ranch function, which is kind of like a shopping cart on the Our Ranches page. So it's our ranch listings page. And this is something that is going to be a huge, a good tool for you, because this is what gives you that side-by-side comparison. And you can request literature from just a small handful of ranches rather than all of our ranches. So it's a really helpful tool, especially for travel agents who are helping clients kind of narrow down the list, is that lasso this ranch. And you'll see that function on the Our Ranches page on those listings. And then, you know, again, once they've narrowed it down, be sure to contact the ranch directly, again, just to confirm pricing availability for that particular week. It's more and more common that ranches have a little bit of price fluctuation throughout the peak season. You know, for their really busy weeks, there's kind of a premium rate. For those shoulder weeks, the rates are a little bit lower. So again, we give you kind of the average rate on our website, but you'll want to make sure that you reach out to them for final pricing. And again, especially if there's kids traveling or folks who are not going to ride at all, a lot of ranches have non-riding rates, children's rates, discounted rates for groups of 10 or more. So there are military discounts, things along that nature. So again, I really encourage you, use our pricing as a guideline, just to make sure that it's kind of in the ballpark of the budget. And then to get that final quote, you'll want to reach out to the ranch directly. Okay, we did talk about this last time just a little bit too, but you know, again, the booking window is 9 to 12 months, if not longer. For most of our large family reunions, they're booking about 18 months out right now. And that's for groups of 20 to 30 for those large families, you know, booking about a year and a half, between 12 and 18 months. For individual family units, for couples, for singles, you know, again, 9 to 12 months is good. So this is the time to really start kind of having folks think about the upcoming summer of 22. And they're going to have the most choices. They're going to have the most options, maybe in cabin. You know, there's obviously different cabins and lodge accommodations at each ranch. Maybe they want to be right on the river. Maybe they don't want to be right on the river. You know, there's all sorts of different considerations to have. And the longer in advance you can book, the more choices they're going to have. So I really encourage folks, you know, to book a little bit longer. The adult only travel does typically have a shorter booking window. It didn't fall in line this year just because the booking window for September, you know, just because of where we're at right now, and we had a lot of reservations carry over from last year. This year's a little bit of an anomaly for us, but in general, the adult only booking window is a little bit shorter. So you do have a little bit more wiggle room with your adult fall, winter, and spring travel. Okay, this is a lot of text. So I'm going to send this to Lisa so that you have this, so that you don't feel like you need to make a lot of notes here. So these are some things for you to expect when booking for your client. First of all, you know, let them know that you're a travel agent booking for your client. They will commission you directly. Again, we don't commission through the association. Each individual ranch will commission you directly. They're all about in the same ballpark on commission rates. So, you know, it doesn't make sense to send it to one and not the other, because you might be like a 0.5% difference between the two. It's more important that you find the right ranch for your client, but they're all right about at the same percentage rate. So let them know right away that you're a travel agent. Most ranches do require a deposit upon booking, and then the final payment is either on a predetermined date. Some do 30, 60, 90 days out from travel, or some ranches have it the final day of their stay. Each ranch is a little bit different for that final payment, so it's just good to ask the question so that your clients can understand when the final payment is due for the trip. And same thing with cancellation policies. You're going to find that most of the ranches have pretty consistent cancellation policies, just because, you know, as an industry, they've all kind of talked to each other. And so at the end of the day, they're all going to be pretty similar for cancellation policies. But it's just something good to know, you know, what that policy is. And, you know, and then you can go from there. The room accommodations, so typically what you'll do when you call to book, you're probably used to saying, you know, we need a gosh, what do I hear? So it's like, we'll need a queen and two single beds and two baths, you know, 2 baths or things like that. And really kind of breaking down the room layout for the ranch. For the ranch, it's a little bit different because, unfortunately, you know, they have a limited number of cabins. And so what they're looking to do is kind of maximize their occupancy throughout a week, right? So they wouldn't necessarily put a family of 4 in a 6-person cabin. So what I like to do in the way to kind of turn that around is saying, you know, I have this family of 4, it's 2 adults and 2 kids. What types of cabins do you have available for them? Because again, you know, because it's not like a hotel where there's a much larger inventory to choose from. They really look at it as, you know, let's take the family unit that we have and find the best accommodations for them. And all of the accommodations are the same price. So it's not like, you know, it's not like you could even rent out, if you were a single person and rent out their cabin for 12. They can't do that. It's just not a good business model for them to do that, because it all works together into their program. So just know that all of the accommodations are typically the same rate. And, you know, they will absolutely find the best accommodations to accommodate your clients. But that is something a little bit different than booking at some other types of resorts. Let's see. We already talked about making sure that they communicate directly with the ranch at some point. This does not jeopardize your commission in one sense. But again, you know, there's a lot that goes into a dude ranch vacation. And so the ranches usually do like to talk with the clients over the phone before they arrive. So again, it doesn't jeopardize anything on your end. You'll still get your commission, but it's just something that they want to do to make sure all expectations are in line so that they have a great trip. And also the activity scheduling. I know we had a few questions on this in the last session, but nearly all of the ranches do all of their activity scheduling on site. So your clients do not need to pre-book for anything. We've got a couple of ranches that have kind of some bells and whistles, like the spa service, and that ranch is Sea Lazy U. Sea Lazy U is one of actually, I think they're the only exception we have of a ranch where there may be some things that you need to pre-book for them, but that's just one ranch. And that would be things like spa service. And you know, some of actually, I think it's just their spa service now that they book ahead. Everything else at the ranch can be booked on site. And for all of our other ranches, we have several other ranches with massage services, whitewater rafting, overnight pack trips, things like that. That's all booked on site once they arrive. So with that one exception, everything is booked on site. A little bit of, I'm going to skip through this one pretty quick because I want to make sure we get to a few down the row here and have plenty of time for questions. But again, find the right ranch first. I can't stress this enough. And this is where you can help me because one of the challenges is you know, really making sure that people find the right ranch. And it's just amazing how you know, there are lots of different ways to get them there, and there's lots of different ways to make it a manageable travel experience even for families. But finding that right ranch is just so critical to making sure that they have that great experience. So you know, again, once you find that ranch, you can look at the regional airports that they have in the area. The ranch itself is actually going to be your best resource for ground transportation options, as well as you know, at regional airport pickups. Again, most of our ranches do offer pickup from regional airports. Some of our ranches offer ground transportation from Denver International and Colorado Springs for an additional fee. Some of the ranches have third-party shuttle services that work, you know, that work with their ranch that they refer onto, that can kind of give your clients a little bit more of a discount. So again, once they find that ranch, make sure that's one of your questions for the ranch itself is ground transportation and or regional airports, and they will absolutely help you kind of make it the easiest transition possible for your guests. And for some ranches, you know, that don't have any sort of shuttle service or individual transfers, they do, again, you know, with some of the car rental companies, they may have some discounted rates or contracts with car companies. So there's all sorts of different options for, you know, that the ranch can help you with to help get your clients to the ranch. And for the winter time, I do like to mention this. So for your guests that are looking to travel to one of our ranches in the wintertime and you're helping them maybe with rental cars, get them four-wheel drive. It's just going to make them feel better. Our roads are pretty well maintained, to be brutally honest, in the wintertime. You know, even the ranches that are open in the winter plow pretty consistently to get onto the property. But for those who aren't familiar with driving Colorado mountains in the wintertime, you know, the four-wheel drive vehicles do make them feel a little better driving through the mountains, even if it's not 100% necessary. I'd recommend doing that for them. It's just kind of a peace of mind for that winter travel. And we already talked about the byways. I would love that. So the website is at the bottom of this page. Take a peek at that and then compare that to the map on our website, our ranch map. And you're going to find that there are some great scenic ways to get to the ranch. And that's something that is an extra value that a lot of the travel agents who book a lot of dude ranch trips have really started to do is really expand on that pre and post ranch lodging and you know, day trip itinerary. And that's kind of been a fun thing for them to build on year after year, because even if, you know, the guests want to go back the next year, maybe you can add on something pre or post trip so that, you know, it kind of enhances that trip for them when they return. And so that's what a lot of our travel professionals do, that book, you know, repeat year after year. They kind of work on that pre and post ranch and really kind of take a deep dive into that. And that adds a lot of value for the visitor too. This is a slide from the first one, so we'll move past this pretty quick, but we've got a really good mix of ranches in Colorado. We've got just, you know, in terms of family ranches, we probably have the most family ranches of all the states. So lots of options for families. And again, we really cover the gambit from working ranches all the way up to the luxury ranch resort. So we'll be able to find something for folks. And then again, really keeping in mind that we try and keep that travel time down because of our major airports. And also that does keep costs down. I like to kind of bring that up too when you're talking about cost with your clients, because you know, to fly, for instance, into Denver, that's a major hub, is oftentimes more cost effective than you know, flying into a state airport that's not an international hub. Those prices typically go up for those airports, which does impact the cost. So because we've got two major hubs in Colorado, that does keep the actual travel costs down a bit. So for pricing, again, just make sure off-season pricing, the pricing you see on our website, we focus on that peak season, because once we get into October through May, it is a wide gambit of what you're going to find. So the pricing that you're looking at online is our peak season. So make sure to touch base directly with the ranch for that off-season pricing and programming. Oh, you know what? One thing I did want to talk about is our group season, or our group travel and incentive travel. We have more and more ranches that are doing these types of, booking these types of groups. And I'd really encourage you to consider that if you do have any corporate groups or incentive travelers that are looking at a dude ranch. So typically a lot of our business group and incentive travel happens in October and November. And then going into like February and February, March, April, those are some pretty big months for our business group and incentive travelers. And so there's some really fun ways that the ranches have been able to work with those groups in the off season to do some fun team building and you know, just group trips for that type of business traveler. So the benefits, you know, financially, you know, our ranches, the large majority of our ranches commission you off of the lodging, the meals, and the activities, which is pretty unique. A lot of resorts will just commission off of just the lodging component itself. So we like to take care of you. And, you know, the ranches in our association, you are just virtually guaranteed to be sending them to a trip that they're absolutely going to love, hands down. So really just knowing that you're sending them to a great ranch. This is a little bit more, again, just about how to promote. And so again, these links are going to be in there, but I do want to spend just a couple of minutes here. We talked about this in the 101. Again, I told you there were a few slides in here for my ones that the folks that sneak into the 201 without going to the 101. So I know all of you were at the 101. So wink, wink, right? So I know that we'll kind of skip past that a little bit. So becoming the expert, you know, the first thing you can do is visit a ranch. I would really encourage you to take a look at some of our ranches. I've been talking with Lisa about even doing some day visits, even if the ranch isn't completely open yet or doesn't have the availability overnight. Doing a site visit is a great way just to get to know the property, the ranch, the owners and management, and just kind of see for yourself what kind of a great vacation you're sending your clients to. The best time to book for yourself and get the best rates is, again, those shoulder seasons. So the very end of May, kind of mid-May to early June, and then the second 2 weeks in August for those family weeks. And then, you know, again, the off season is always good. You'll certainly be able to get a sense for the property itself in the off season. Just know that you won't necessarily be experiencing or seeing all of the programming that they have in the summer, but we do have a lot of travel professionals who visit ranches in the off season, because it really does give you a good sense of the property and the drive and you know, the hospitality, the customer service, all of that's just standard at all of our ranches. If you can't visit them directly, give them a ring. I really think it's so funny. And I tell these to folks too who just call me directly and are not working with a travel professional, but I say it's kind of like matchmaking. And I've used that term before in this presentation, but take that in the most literal sense you possibly can. Every ranch has its own personality, its own flavor. And so even by just picking up the phone and talking with the folks at the ranch and the owners, the management, and just kind of getting their, their 2 cents on the ranch, you're going to figure out right away what kind of personality of your clients, what clientele base will fit well with that ranch. So, because this is a very personalized vacation. This is not a cookie cutter vacation in any shape, or form. So, really finding a ranch, first of all, that meets all of their needs, activities, accommodations, things like that. And then obviously taking it that next step and kind of playing matchmaker. It's actually kind of fun because you get to know the personality of your clients a little bit better. And then you get to play your hand at matchmaker, which is always fun. So give them a call. And take notes and update those often. So, I have some folks who've been selling dude ranches for many years, and they just have this super impressive binder with all sorts of brochures and information and updates with years, because ranches will add programs and activities and specialty weeks and even lodging. There are some ranches that, it's good to know when they have a full remodel done, right? So at some of the ranches, they do that. So make sure to update those notes. And finally, again, this is just kind of reiterating the sustainability commitment that we have as a state, and that we were some of the first members of the Colorado Coalition. This is important, and it is a growing segment of traveler who finds that sustainable tourism is important to them. So we really take that to heart, and really practice what we preach. So just know that that's something that's important to us, and we know that that's important to a lot of clients as well. So before we get to questions, I wanted to go through, as I promised, a few of the ranches and a few of the specific things that were of interest in the last session here. And so, we had some folks who had asked about like the overnight pack trips, for instance, or the glamping experience. And we have a lot of those ranches. So I'm going to, you all have to make me a promise, and this is going to be apparently a promise on mute. So I'm just going to take you all for your silent word here. I'm going to go through a few ranches just to give you some examples of some things. But again, this is just an example. So for instance, if we're talking about zip lines, there's more than one ranch that has a zip line, right? So to go through every individual ranch would be a lot, but I want to give you a taste for some of those extras. So for instance, for overnight pack trips where you ride in, stay the night in a covered tent, and then, pack out, we have Tumbling River Ranch has a really fun trip where they take you up to like an old mining town. It's an abandoned ghost town up in the middle of the mountains, and you ride up to it, and then you ride back to what's called high camp, and you camp there. They cook you steak, you sleep on, they actually have these lean-tos that are covered, and mattresses in there, and it's kind of that fun in between camping, roughing it, and a little bit of creature comforts, which is fun, and that's great for teens and adults. For the glamping experience, I know that we talked about last time, again, Sea Lazy U, the ranch I'd mentioned with the spa, you need to book ahead of time. They have a glamping experience where it's a full cabin setup, luxury setup in the middle of the mountains in this beautiful canvas tent, but it's a full bed, all the amenities that you would expect in their cabins. It's great for couples. They can do, you kind of have a nice little romantic night away. They make you this beautiful dinner. It's really fun and kind of something unique. That's neat. We've got several ranches with zip lines. I don't know why dude ranchers just love their zip lines, but they love zip lines. So we've got Bar Lazy J Ranch, we've got Drowsy Water, we've got Wind River Ranch that has a zip line. And a lot of those ranches too have kind of rock wall things for the kids to do as well, which is really fun. Most of our ranches at this point in time take out a rafting trip, a whitewater rafting trip. That's another really popular activity. Nearly all of our ranches do that. For folks who really want a cool biking experience and want to ride on like a $4,000 top of the line, mountain bike, we've got Majestic Dude Ranch and Vista Verde Ranch have a really neat guided biking program. So again, for those folks who want something other than horseback riding, something kind of unique. In the wintertime, Vista Verde also has fat bikes, which is kind of a fun trend. You actually bike in the snow, which sounds absolutely miserable to me, but apparently people really like this. I'm not sure why. And then, so biking, biking is really fun at some of these ranches. Also, to differentiate a little bit, the minimum age to ride varies from ranch to ranch. So, the ranches like to get all kids of all ages on horseback, but typically the itty bitties, which I consider anywhere from like they can hold their head up, they have head control, infant through about 5 or 6 is going to be in the group that's led around on a horse, right? And then typically somewhere between 6 and 8 years old is the minimum age to ride independently at the ranches. The ranches do not allow for double riding, so there's no parents riding with their children. That's a safety component. So you won't find that anywhere, but kids will be riding. So even the young ones have a chance to ride. And, again, that minimum age age to ride varies from ranch to ranch. So if you've got kids that are kind of in that in between, make sure to check with the ranch on that. And the food in terms of kind of the dining, it varies everything from family style. Most of the ranches have family style meals. It changed a little bit in COVID, so I'm not sure what's going to go back after that, but it's kind of the pass around meals. Even at our luxury ranches, obviously there are nights throughout the week that the ranches will have plated meals and things like that. But, it's family style meals is pretty typical. They do have some buffets, especially for lunch and breakfast. Dinners are a little bit more formal in general. For our working ranches, our two really, just excellent small working ranches are Badger Creek and Zapata Ranch. And so again, if you really have some folks that want to learn how to be a cowboy for a week and have a really great kind of educational, you are learning how to tend cattle. You might learn how to fix a fence. You're learning about watersheds. You're, learning about what it takes to run a ranch, and then you're doing it. Those are the types of folks who really, really love our working ranches. And again, those really do cater to the older teens and through adults. They're not ideal for kids. But those are two of the ranches that really do that. We have a lot of other ranches with cattle though. So if somebody says, gosh, I just want to work with cattle, they don't have to go to one of those two traditional working ranches. About 60% of our ranches have cattle activities is what they call them. So, that's a question to ask the ranches as well. So with that, I said I'd give you more time for questions, and now we have just a few minutes less than the last session. So I'm going to stop here, and Lisa, let's jump into the questions that folks have, and I can go into more details as necessary.
Perfect. Thanks, Courtney. So we do have a bunch of questions. The first question is, do they separate experienced and beginner riders with a family who has both experienced and beginner?
That's an excellent question. Yes and no. So there are different levels of riding that are offered every day. So for instance, while you're there, you might be asked at dinner time whether you want to go on the beginner, intermediate, or advanced ride. So more advanced riders can always ride down to different levels within their family. The more beginner riders typically don't ride up. They also have, but that again gives people choices. So they may take one ride that day that's with their advanced group, and then they may want to ride with their family for the other ride that day. And that's pretty typical. Throughout the week, especially with the kids, they have family rides. Most ranches have at least 2 family rides throughout the week where the parents and the kids ride together. And so that's a really fun way to kind of intermingle those riding abilities as well. But they do separate beginner, intermediate, and advanced so that you're riding with riders that are similar in your ability.
Perfect. And Bobby's asking, can a person advance through stages of ridership during the week, or do they have to stick with their level of experience that they have upon arrival?
Excellent question. No, you do not have to stick with that level. In fact, the ranches work really hard if you want to learn and progress in riding. If you just want to do scenic walking rides all week, you can do that. If you're the type of rider who really wants to progress in your riding, you absolutely can. So they have daily clinics offered, for instance. So maybe you go on a ride in the morning and say, gosh, I really want to learn how to trot or how to turn or maneuver my horse more confidently. They have clinics so that you can, throughout the week, become a better rider. So even if you start on a beginner ride, maybe by Tuesday or Wednesday, you're doing an intermediate ride and you just stick with the intermediates, or, if you're really gung-ho and just, really progressing forward and the wranglers feel like you can do an advanced ride, you can go all the way to advanced. So absolutely. And that's actually really encouraged. I mean, they want to help you learn to ride better.
Nice. And I think you mentioned this. I think she asked a question before you said it. The percentage of repeat guests. I wanted to say you said, what was it, like 65% of repeat guests?
Yeah, at least. We have some ranches that are closer to 85%, but on average across all of our ranches, it's about 65%.
That's awesome. And then Lynn's asking, with the painting and photography type of workshops, do they need to ride as well?
No, absolutely not. So we have ranches that offer those photography workshops. Sometimes they'll take like a Jeep trip out. We've got Zapata Ranch, one of our 2 ranches that I mentioned, the working ranches. They actually have the largest herd of buffalo in Colorado. They have over 2,500 buffalo.
Wow.
And so they take you out in a truck the week that the photographer comes. They're one of those ranches that has the photography week. And you learn how to photograph buffalo, like in the middle of the herd of buffalo. So no, you do not have to ride to do those specialty week activities like photography, painting, things like that. Now, there are some specialty weeks that actually have an expert trainer, like a clinician, a horse riding clinician that comes up. And so if, for instance, if it's one of those specialty weeks where they have a trainer or a clinician specifically to teach you how to ride better and to manage your horse better, that's probably that one exception to the rule.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then let's see, Mark asked the minimum age for guests, but I think you kind of touched it. There's really not a minimum, but it depends on how old they are to where they can ride, usually 6 to 8 years old.
Where they can ride independently is 6 to 8. And also keep in mind, some of our ranches do have minimum ages they can accommodate. So those are 2 different things. So you want to ask the ranch what their minimum age is that they can accommodate, and then what their minimum age to ride independently is. Most of our ranches can accommodate infants. Again, going back to our 2 working ranches, they actually have a minimum age that's around 8 or 13 years old. So they don't have the ability, for instance, to even accommodate younger children at those types of ranches, which is why it's great for kind of the teens and adults I'd mentioned. Most of our other ranches that are traditional dude ranches and luxury ranches can accommodate infants on up.
Okay, perfect. That's great. Debbie's asking about getting a family of 12 into a ranch for June. Debbie, on that one, I'm going to have you just email Courtney directly, because I think that's going to be a little bit of a bit more of a conversation. Jill is asking, Jill wanted to know the family picture that you had on there. Was that your family by chance?
It is. It's funny. So that was actually our family at Vista Verde. So we always offer, when we go to a different ranch, just as a family for our vacation, we go to a different ranch every year. And they're always, if they have a photographer up like they did that week, they just need someone to sign on the line to use the images. So I know I can use those images in my publishing just because I'm giving my permission to do so. Yes.
Well, we all love the picture. It's such a perfect. Okay, so Debbie's asking if a client books activities on site, do you get commission on all of the activities?
So the activity, since it's included in the rate, you are technically getting it included in their full package, whether they do the activity or not. Again, the exception to that is for the few ranches that have those additional paid activities like the spa service. Some of the ranches charge in addition for whitewater rafting. It's a pretty nominal amount once you build it into the whole thing. So no, if it is an additional fee that they're paying, so for like a spa service, that typically is not included in your incentive.
Perfect. And Bobby is asking about the ranch websites. She said, do most of these ranches have great websites so our clients can learn about them easily too? She's anxious to learn more about the specific ranches.
Yes, so start with our website, and the reason I say that is because of that Lasso This Ranch feature. That is going to be your new best friend, and I hope you all spend some time on that even today and just kind of play around with it, because that's like your shopping cart. You're not buying anything, obviously, but it acts the same as a shopping cart so that you can compare and contrast ranches side by side. So I would start with our website, to be honest, if you're narrowing things down. Then you go to their web. Once you get down to 2 or 3, so you're not, going through 20 plus websites, then you can go down and start looking at the additional details on their websites. But we have a lot of basic information that people ask about on our site, and it's easy to compare and contrast ranches.
Perfect. And then Debbie said, awesome idea to do site visits. Lynn is saying she'd be interested in watching if you decide to do a series of presentations covering, individual ranches, if that's a possibility.
I can, yes. And actually I have I have those presentations already started. It's a lot of information. And so and I'm still trying to figure out a good way to break that down, because we've got like 2 working ranches, and then we've got, like 10 traditional ranches. So my traditional ranch, that would be like 2 hours, and my working ranch would be like 30 minutes. So I'm just trying to figure out a good way to present those in a way that makes sense.
Okay.
What I would say in the meantime, until I have kind of finished that presentation, is give me a ring. I really do like to work, kind of talk through things with you. And oftentimes I can kind of help narrow things down to a smaller handful of maybe 6 or 7 ranches to have in your back pocket based on your clientele.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. Laura's asking, does the coalition send out emails with updates and offerings for the ranches?
This is our association. So we do. So we do have different, we have an email that goes out monthly, and you can actually sign up for that on our website. So you will get some more information. That's a great way to learn about our individual ranches too, because we highlight different ranches each month.
Okay.
So you will get a little bit of information on those individual ranches, not as much as I'd like to offer in a more in-depth manner, but you will get some information. We also highlight those specialty weeks as well. So if you have folks interested in that, that's a great email list to be on.
So I wanted to mention that. So as you were talking about the specialty weeks, I went on your website to look, and they still have 2020.
So here's the problem. Because we're so booked up this summer, we just had, I was going to update that page, and I'm going, oh my gosh, I can put all these weeks up, but nobody's going to have space for them.
Right.
So I won't lie, I've kind of brushed that page down on my
2022.
I really appreciate that. I think I'm going to just skip 21 and just start updating for 22. And I apologize. And I do manage our website, so if you see something that's outdated, let me know. And I am aware of that, and I've just totally pushed that down on my priority list somewhere between like scrubbing toilets. I don't know.
Yeah, no worries. Patty's saying she'd love to do both site visits and training on the individual ranches. Let's see here. I answered that question. Laura's asking, are there any ranches requiring vaccines or COVID tests?
Good question. Not as of right now, no. So we do have some ranches, in terms of their staff, and that they're doing vaccination programs, obviously, and really making sure that their staff and that their environment is as safe as possible. There's a lot of litigation out right now on whether or not you can actually require that. So I think they're just waiting to see what comes down the pipeline in terms of what you can actually kind of legally ask people to do. So until we have some more clarification on that, no, none of our ranches are requiring the vaccine.
Okay. But you guys are all doing, like you said, the COVID protocols.
Yes. Absolutely. So they're carrying over that COVID protocol this summer. More than likely, they'll carry over components of it for several years. So yes, they've just done an excellent job in mitigating it. And, in terms of actually having any outbreaks, they've been very minimal. I think, there have been one or two people last summer, between all of our ranches and all of the guests that ended up having a positive case. So we're very fortunate.
Yeah, it's not bad. Pam's also asking, can you list a few ranches, one or two, that offers great guided hiking?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So I love Latigo Ranch for guided hikes. They actually have a naturalist on staff. And so if you want to know about the flora, the fauna, the geography around you, and really have, kind of that added bonus to the hike, I love Latigo Ranch for their hiking. And, gosh, I mean, all of our ranches have great hiking. I really am thinking more of that experience, that added experience. So what type of guides, what type of additional education or benefit do they have with that? So again, that's just one ranch that comes to mind. All of our ranches have great hiking, and most of them have guided hikes as well.
So is Latigo, is that Latigo or LAD? LAT.
LAT.
IGO. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And what about the guidelines for clothing? Are cowboy boots really necessary?
Yes. Well, so here's the scoop. It comes down to safety. Okay. So our ranches, they go to the nines to make sure that you have a good experience on horseback. And obviously we can't guarantee people's safety. We're putting people on horses. We can do a lot of things to make sure that you are educated and oriented with horseback riding before you get on, that you have the best clothing on to prevent injury, things like that. So when I say cowboy boots are necessary, it's not a vanity thing. It really comes down to safety. If you don't have cowboy boots, most of our ranches actually have what they call boot barns, where you can borrow a pair of boots for the week. So you don't need to, even with cowboy hats, they'll have hats and boots, and obviously they're cleaned and sanitized in between everyone. But they have those boot barns. So if you don't have your own, or you don't want to spend that additional amount, most ranches have those available for you. And then jeans are also necessary. There's no riding in board shorts or anything like that.
Right. Okay, cool. Let's see here. What's next? Bobby said clinics sound awesome. Looking forward to the riding clinics. Does the ranch near the buffalo herd offer guided excursions to see them besides the week of the photography?
Yes, so they do have weekly. If you're there throughout the week, you'll have the opportunity to go out and see the buffalo. It's a big pole there. So they're also just next to the sand dunes, so they'll do a riding trip to the sand dunes, and also I think they're still doing a Jeep trip there. I'm not sure, but yes, you do have the opportunity other than the photography week to see the buffalo.
And that's Zapata, right? Zapata. Okay.
Yes.
And Maven's asking, my apologies, she came in late. Okay, Maven, I'll send the website to everybody so you can have that to make sure you have the right one. And Lynn, as far as arranging a FAM, you would do that individually through Courtney, or through the ranches, right, Courtney? Just calling the ranches to get it.
So what I would recommend you do, you can always, if you have a couple of ranches in mind that you feel like would be a good fit for your clients, I just call them directly and see what you'd like to do. What Lisa's looking to do is kind of a little loop tour where she's doing day visits and not necessarily staying the night because it's pre-season. If it's something out of the ordinary where you won't be having lodging as part of your stay, I would reach out to me first list, and then I can help you coordinate that.
Perfect. And so hiking boots are not okay, just to like verify.
You cannot ride in hiking boots. No, those are actually super dangerous.
Probably dangerous.
Yeah, they're super dangerous. They've got great tread on them for a reason, and it's not horseback riding. It's for hiking, so that you don't slip and fall while you're hiking. If your foot were to get caught in that stirrup with a hiking boot on, you could be in real trouble. So no hiking boots.
Can you do English riding boots? This is just a personal question.
Yes. Okay. Absolutely. English riding boots, Western boots.
But I don't have.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes, English riding boots are perfect.
Cool. Lynn says, are all the saddles Western style, or some of them English?
All Western.
Yeah.
If you want to ride English, there's some great equitrekking in Europe that you can do, but we don't have any English saddles that are ranches. Again, it's more, the type of riding that we're doing is pretty technical mountain riding. And so there's a lot of tack on a Western saddle that really adds to that. So there is reason behind the madness. We're not just anti-English riding. It's more the type of riding that we're doing really needs a Western saddle.
Yep. Just like you wouldn't use a Western saddle in English riding.
Right. You don't want to jump a horse necessarily with a Western saddle on.
Yeah. And Laura, a good place to buy boots. In Florida, we don't even need socks. Laura, come to me in Ohio. We have lots of boot places. I'll help you. It's fun.
I love how we're stuck on the footwear. This is so fun. I like it.
You got a bunch of ladies. I know Mark's on here, and I think I've got Robert on here too, but you got a bunch of people on here. Okay, so any other question, guys, that you have not asked us yet that you're dying to know the answer?
And if we're all done, Lisa, don't forget I've got my last question.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, go for it, because it doesn't look like any other questions are coming in.
Okay, so here I would love to give something fun away to the group who has been through the 101 and 201 with me. So I have some specific requirements. So you have to message me through the chat, but you can't message the group, because if you message the group with the answer, then everybody's going to know the answer. Okay, so when you go into the chat, just make sure you're not clicking everyone. You're just clicking Courtney Frazier. And go ahead and get your chat box open. And I've got your quiz question for you, okay? So, and the winner is gonna win a prize. So I'll have Lisa, you can help me get a mailing address, stuff like that, and I'll get that out to them.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm gonna pick someone at random. I don't know any of you, so Lisa, I'm not gonna have you pick, so you can't play favorites.
Okay.
I don't know anybody, so I'm just gonna kind of close my eyes and then point to my screen, and that's who wins, okay? So, is everybody ready for the question? What is the difference between a dude ranch and a guest ranch? Message me directly with your answer.
I should play Jeopardy music. I wish I would have done that.
All right, I'm going to give everybody about 30 more seconds, and then some people are correct, some people are wrong, so now I have to go through and find the correct people, and then, all right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, closing the session. Okay, so hold on, let me just at random pick somebody, and then I'm gonna have you turn off your mute and tell me the answer. So all right, so what is the difference between a dude ranch and a guest ranch? And hold on, I just clicked the top of the chat, so now I gotta scroll
all
the way back down, all the way down. Okay, so my big winner is Donna Davis. Donna, unmute yourself and tell me what the difference, or Donia, I'm sorry, D-O-N-I-A, Donia. Unmute yourself and tell us the difference between a dude ranch and a guest ranch.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, there is absolutely no difference.
Yes, that is correct. So Danya, you are going to win a little piece of the Colorado Dude and Guest Ranch Association history. We just donated original copies of everything to the History Colorado Museum last year, and I have a lot of duplicates left over. So you are going to get a fun picture from our past. It's black and white, and it'll be framed with a few other little trinkets of our history, which hopefully you enjoy. And so thank you for joining both sessions. And Lisa, again, thank you so much for having me here. And Danya, if you wouldn't mind just, you know, you can share your mailing address maybe with Lisa, and Lisa can forward that to me just so we can close that loop, and I'll get that in the mail to you, okay?
Sure will. Thank you so much.
Yay. Well, thank you, Courtney, for joining us again today and teaching us all about dude ranches. I think we all thoroughly enjoyed it, and we're all ready to come and visit you. I know I am.
Well, good. And I'm always here to answer questions, so feel free to email me. That's typically the best way to reach out. It's a one-man band here, so if it's phone, I usually have to do the phone tag thing with people a couple of times before we connect. So email's the fastest. Phone is always available. Reach out if you have questions, and I'm always happy to help.
Awesome. Thanks, Courtney. Bye, everybody.